you got home,
Hmm.
and then days later we went to lockdown.
Yeah.
So then what did you do? What do
Well,
we
then
now?
I got.
I've got nothing to say yes to now.
Well, I got that was it. I got a lot of phone calls of this bit of work's cancelled, that bit of work's cancelled, etc., etc. The studio's closing, and I was getting a bit edgy about it. But then my friend Kat, who runs a festival in Oxford called Folk Weekend Oxford, I used to do the sound for that festival. I haven't for a few years, but previous years I've been her kind of technician. Kat and I have done loads of other work together since. And her festival is an April festival, so they were thrown under a bus with all of this. But she's another one of those. I think there's a reason we've done so much work together. She's also very bloody minded, and she'd basically decided. Well, I think what had happened was she'd been looking at, was it going to be possible to take the festival online, and then because everyone could see lockdown was coming. And then she saw our live stream from Switzerland and essentially went, yes, it is possible to take it online.
Yeah.
So then she gave me a call and went, I'm going to move the entire festival online. It's 50 plus events across a weekend. Do you think we can do it? So
Yeah, what did he say? Yes.
I went, well, we can give
Technically, you're asking the wrong guy, but yes.
we can give it a try. So yeah, we went to do that, which we did. And it worked, and it was a bit scary, and some of it was better than other bits, but as a whole, it worked, and they sold tickets, and people paid for it, and we were doing it all through Zoom then, as opposed to Facebook. She wanted to implement a paywall, so it was... I think her whole ethos was originally to not devalue anything, that we were putting a lot of effort into the infrastructure of that festival,
which is
sound and
difficult
everything.
considering the circumstances, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just kept it exactly the same, not knowing what would happen, but people bought tickets, and
How did they keep it the same? In what way?
in the same way as that they had. So the festival runs on like a couple of different tiers of event anyway. So you'd have like ticketed events in a theatre, and then you'd have free events on a stage in the city or something along those lines. So what they did with more local artists, say, and then the ticketed ones would be like national or international known artists. So they kept the ticketed events, which would be on Zoom, which you could only access with a Zoom link, which you only got if you bought a ticket.
Right. Makes sense.
And then they social media streamed what would have been the local stuff on like the outdoor stages type thing, so anyone could access it.
So little did we know that's the way. I mean, every festival's virtual now, isn't it?
Exactly. So we did all of that, and people bought into it, and it made money, and we paid all the artists properly. So Kat said, let's do another one. To me, essentially, let's do a May Day event, because May Day is a big thing on the folk scene. So we did a May Day event, and same thing, loads of people bought tickets. It was really successful. We paid the artist, and like, I'm not talking nothing, like thousands. It went well. So we thought, well, let's do a few more, and then before we knew it, we were doing 2 gigs a week.
There you go. For as long as there is no venues to go to, people are going to happily do that because there's no alternative.
Exactly. So we've moved away from the Folk Weekend Oxford thing, because they're a not-for-profit, and they were, and we were making money from it as a business as well as paying the artists. So we've set up as Live to Your Living Room.
This
as
is
our
what
own
I was going to
thing.
talk about. I was wondering if that was the same thing. Live to Your Living Room, which you just launched.
So that's how that's
recently.
come out. So we've been developing that so that it can be. What we were doing originally was we were kind of relying on the goodwill of the artists to have some gear and me telling them how to set it up, and I would describe stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing. But what we've been gradually doing is investing in equipment ourselves, and I've been formulating, I should say, a way in which I can engineer the gigs as I would do in a venue, but from my house while the artist is still in their house.
Yeah.
So I still mix. So now we're at a
you just
point.
need the feeds to come in and be good quality.
Yeah. So I still mix the gigs like I would do, and so
On the fly.
Right. And it's all totally live. There's no recording afterwards. You pay a ticket, you watch it, and if you miss it, you miss it. It's like as live can be.
That's good.
We do it on Zoom so that the artists can see an audience. People put their cameras on; they can see lots of little boxes of an audience.
Yeah.
They unmute themselves and applaud after numbers. Like it's real time.
Cool.
We incorporate a Q&A element so people can ask questions. It's a bit more like a meet the artist type thing as well. It's quite intimate. And I send them a bunch of gear to do it. So I've got 2 flight cases of equipment flying around the country at any one time at the moment to the
That's
gigs.
a good idea. So that's a bit like a touring band where they have
Pretty much
on the bigger level where they have a separate setup going ahead of them to the
Yeah,
next show.
very
so
much.
when they
yeah.
finish, when they get there, that one's done, ready to
Yeah,
go.
I'm Parcel Force's biggest complainer at the moment, but or customer. I'm just
I saw you posted something.
Oh,
About
it's just my life in Parcel
I
Force.
didn't realise.
content.
Was that
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
See, I didn't realise.
Because the turnaround. Well, this is why we've got 2 sets of gear now. We had 1 originally. So this was the setup relied on 2 gigs a week, a Wednesday and a Saturday, to give enough time for Parcel Force to collect the parcel on a Thursday, deliver it on a Friday, gig on a Saturday, collect on Monday, deliver on a Tuesday, gig on a Wednesday. That was the
Doesn't give
setup.
you much leeway, does it?
And this stuff started to go wrong eventually.
Oh, yeah, you need to.
Nothing that's been unfixable yet, but it has. One did mean me driving around the country to collect something from somewhere and take it to the next place myself. So we've got 2 sets of gear going around now. So yeah, we're doing that. And
So those gigs, once they've happened, no one can see. They're not like available for.
Nope.
But you could record them.
yeah, but the reason we didn't originally is because we thought we were going to run into GDPR issues with people with cameras on and their names would have to get permission to be able to broadcast that.
Right.
But then there is ways of not doing it, but we're still stuck to not doing it because we're trying to keep the idea that if you bought a ticket to a gig, you'd go to the gig and it's very much a live experience. And we want it to be a live experience for the audience and for the artist.
Yeah.
As much as it...
as spontaneous as like a gig would be.
Exactly. We don't want it so that an artist is playing to 3 people and then 85 watch it whenever they want to.
Well, you find out most people are watching it when you weren't even.
Well, we don't know that, but just
No, but that does happen.
could be.
That
yeah,
does happen
exactly.
sometimes.
Exactly.
You find out more people have watched it afterwards than when it actually
exactly.
happened.
And the whole we're trying to create as much of a live experience as it is possible to create at the moment.
The only reason I asked was because what you could do if you could rebroadcast it is have like a Patreon thing.
Yeah.
So if people are paying a monthly subscription and they couldn't see it, or
well, we are thinking about looking at potential subscription models and that kind of thing as we develop.
that's very popular these days.
Yeah. We just haven't quite hit on how it's going to work yet, and because now we're in kind of the infancy of this.
Yeah,
as
you just
its
need to
own thing.
bash the gigs out first and just
That's it, exactly. Which
get
is
that
what we're doing.
that finely tuned as possible so you know it works.
But I think
and
there's
then-
longevity in it, because we've been chatting to some of the most interesting stuff that's come out of it is having conversations with audience members and artists alike about just little things. So a lot of people are getting in touch saying, thank you so much for doing this. One, it's really great to have this at a time when there's no live music. But secondly, the most surprising thing was getting loads of people saying, I can't access live gigs normally. I've got this disability, that anxiety problem,
Never even thought of that.
young kids, I look after my mum, whatever. I live in the States and most of the British UK folk artists only tour in the UK. Any number of reasons. We've got people watching from all over the world getting in touch saying, I would never normally get to this gig, so this is amazing. So we're starting to say, when the world returns to normal, whatever that is, whenever that is, the music industry is screwed, and it's going to be, well, on the grapevine,
Well,
we're looking at 2022 before...
people
there's-
going back to venues is probably going to be the last things that they will allow. 'Cause it's
Exactly,
just-
exactly. And by which point, there's not going to be any venues and there's going to be no artists
Well, no.
and no
But
infrastructure.
they might have to adapt to this work in this kind of way.
Yeah. So even when that happens, even when tours are happening as normal, we're starting to talk to artists about the idea of scheduling in an online show as well as the dates that they're doing around the country. So particularly because we could stick them in a dead date where then they're playing Exeter on Tuesday and Glasgow on Thursday, and so on Wednesday we're thinking, well, why don't you do half your drive and stop somewhere halfway up, and we'll do you an online show at that stage, and that'll be available for people who can't access your gigs normally, or
I think a
they're
lot
in
of people
town
will be
that
coming to this revelation as well. But
Mhm.
by the time we do get back to some sort of normality and when they let people in, people will have established this way of doing gigs anyway.
Yeah.
So they probably won't want it to stop.
So I think there'll be a way. I think they'll be able to sit side by side. I think there's a long term in it. And me and Kat have basically just said, if there isn't, we might just do this for a year and it'll be fun. And
We won't lose any money, hopefully.
no, and we're plowing tons of money back into the music industry, and we're the only real good news story in that sense that's going around. But I don't know what the latest figures are, but we must be about £60,000. 60 to £70,000 into the industry now. That's paying artists, sound technicians. I don't do all the gigs anymore. I've got someone else who does some as well.
Yep.
Just all the infrastructure behind the arts. We're trying to make sure we pay the band's agents. We're trying to make sure we pay every step of it out of everything we
That
do.
would normally be paid.
Exactly, just
Yeah.
to try and feed some money into the industry as much as we can.